personally deep enough into this, but this is if you want to start identifying what's causing issues. You can start addressing the underlying issues, like what's causing problems. If it's training, now I know I can address training, and then I can report on my issues, see how many training related issues have we been able to eliminate through like a training program or something like that. So then there's issue templates, and issue templates are just pre-configured issues that you can create. And I'm gonna actually, this is a little bit hard to understand the abstract, so we're gonna go live again. So I'm gonna jump down to my issues module, and I'm gonna go to my settings. So your templates, your issue template is just a pre-configured issue. It has data pre-assigned to it. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to call this a graphics coordination issue, because I know I'm going to have coordination like graphic issues on my project. I'm going to assign its type. We're going to put it under design, and we'll just call it design. Give it a useful description. Clean up line work, coordinate visibility settings, easy. That's driving my OCD nuts. Little red lines. Then you could preset who this gets assigned to by role, company, or user. Role is best in my opinion. So if I want to assign this to the architect, I can. You may want to choose to leave that blank. It depends on how tightly you tool your template. You can add a watcher if you want to, or you could program where you can leave these blank and then you fill them in when you create them. If I know that like the person with the architect role is going to get this every time, that's what I'm going to assign it to. Then you can set a due date by days from the creation, and I can assign a root cause. So now that I've done that, when I go to create an issue, I can just say it's a graphics coordination issue, and it will populate it with all of this information automatically.
We have a couple of questions about issues from Mel asking, could you change the color of the shape of the issue?
The only way you can change the color of the issue is by changing its status. So that is something we've been round and round with Autodesk on. In the actual issues module, issues, the only thing that changes their color is their status, which I'm about to talk about statuses here in a second, but like you can refine what statuses are available, but it's color coded for you automatically, unfortunately. The only thing you can change is the characters inside the bubble.
And Tara is asking, what is a watcher?
So a watcher is it's like a CC in an email for an issue. Any change that happens to that issue, the watcher gets notified of. So let's say, I'd say I'm a GC and I got a project engineer out in the field and I assign him an issue. Go get the barcode from a piece of equipment. When he goes and attaches a screenshot or a photo of that barcode to the issue, I'll get a notification, right? Or if the status changes from open to closed, I'll get a notification. It's just so you can keep somebody in the loop on an ongoing activity. That's really all it is. So I equate it to like a CC. Okay, I know we're getting tight on time here, right? So let's do this. Let's switch up here, and we're going to jump to design collaboration. Sorry, I totally skipped over statuses. There's like 7 out-of-the-box statuses that you can pre-configure. It's a pretty out of the box, these are all turned on, and it's a pretty complex, like nuanced issue management workflow. We just use draft, open, closed, and completed. That's all we use. We turn the rest of them off because I don't want architects getting into a pissing match about, no, it's in review, no, it's not approved. Like it's either open and it needs to be addressed, or it's closed and we can move on. That's pretty much it. Okay. So unfortunately, this next section is going to be really short because there's not a lot you can do in design collaboration other than defining the shared folder. You can define the shared folder for all your projects. And obviously your folder structure will come over. You can define your teams. So you just go in and you assign the folder. What does not get picked up is the publish schedule, which is Kind of sad because we'll talk about in a second. There was a JSON workflow that was great. But you can create all your teams. And this is actually our default team list out of the box for all of our projects. So these all get set up automatically for the team members. And you'll see that there's an ARC ID there with one folder, with one published model there. That is us starting the project. And then we go in and delete that. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So what you can set up is a shared folder. You can set up your teams. Asterisk there is if you create teams from, if you create your template from an existing project, the teams are not copied over. You have to still manually create your team structure in your template. They may fix that in the future. Your default team members can be preset up because you've got the files, you've got the members. You can set that up, but the members must already be in the project template. We just basically let everyone into everything unless they're an external consultant. And then you can control what folders are actually included in a team. So on the right there, you have a toggle that says select folders. And I'll show you exactly where that is. I go to design collaboration, go to settings. This is, no, that's my bridge automation. Team setup. This is it. This is where I can set my members. And then in your template, you can set your folders right here, which is now over here in the actual project level. But this is where I can say, I do want to include folder 1, 2, 3, but I want to exclude a specific folder from a team. I have not found an actual useful reason to lock down folders in a Autodesk Construction Cloud team, but that's because we don't use controlled work sharing. We do everything live linked. But you should know as an admin, you have the ability to lock out folders in a team from design collaboration.
Yeah, so that you're saying you should do everything with live links, no exceptions, or okay.
Well, there are exceptions, but there's a lot of hemming and hawing and grunting, and grumbling before we'll give, but we prefer to work live.
And then what's the point of the design collaboration module if everything is live linked? Is it
For us,
access to the folders? Yeah.
For us, it facilitates the automatic publishing.
Oh, okay, for its publishing, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is brings you what you can't set up in the template is you can't set up the publish schedule in the template. I will show you how you can do it for your teams on their behalf. You can't set up the collaboration spaces, which is sad. You can't set up the main model settings, which is sad. And the DWG support, you can't really interact with it, but it's always default on because if people are pushing DWGs up, you want those included in coordination, which makes sense. But the sad thing is you can't do the auto publish setup. So that's my first tips and tricks section. If you want to set up auto publish for your team members, you start your project, you push a Revit file to the project, you set your publish settings, and then you delete that Revit project. So as soon as your project team pushes a Revit file to that project, it automatically turns on the publish schedule because the publish schedule is defined. Couple other important things to note, BIM 360 versus ACC. For user management, you cannot disable users from the ACC module. You have to go to the BIM 360 module to disable them. And disabling is important because if you remove them, it nulls the information associated with that user out of all Autodesk Construction Cloud projects. So if you have issues, if you have RFIs, you have submittals, and you remove that user, it used to just say literally null in parentheses, but now I think it says previous user or something like that. It doesn't give you anything useful. So as an admin, when people leave the firm, I go in, I just deactivate. I don't delete users from our Autodesk Construction Cloud ecosystem.
Yeah, just a quick thing. On the first session, I mentioned, generally speaking, BIM 360 isn't being developed anymore, so all new projects should be started in ACC. But there's actually a few things that BIM 360 has over ACC. That's one of them. Yep. So how do you deal with this? All your new projects are still on ECC, right?
Yeah, we do everything. Everything new is on Autodesk Construction Cloud, and it's just a discomfort that the practice technology team has to manage. as I say, but wait, there's more. In BIM 360, I can pull a list of all the projects that users on. You cannot do this in Autodesk Construction Cloud, or if you can, it's a new functionality. Because I have been complaining about this for a very long time. But as you see, I can, in BIM 360, I can grab a user and see every single project, and I can actually see, are they a project member or a project admin on that project, which makes it very easy to audit a project, because if you don't want external people as project admins, you can see what projects they are set as admin on. This may have been adjusted in Autodesk Construction Cloud, but last I checked, it definitely wasn't like a set list, like here's the user, here's all the projects. What I do like about Autodesk Construction Cloud is you can define a default product. So in the home screen, whenever you're looking at projects, in the middle, there's a dropdown. And you could say, well, when I go here, I always want to go to build, or I always want to go to docs. And then when you set it, it remembers that for you next time. So if you ever access that project again, it goes just directly to the docs module, as opposed to like, I have to go to build, then I have to go to docs.
Which one do you typically like to go to docs or?
Typically docs. It defaults to build, which defaults to the folder structure, which is where I'm doing most of my support. So it's, for me, it's 6 in one, half dozen in the other. But for like our project teams, they definitely want to just go straight to docs. They don't want to have to mess with the build ecosystem. They see the build ecosystem and they freak out sometimes. So, but you can't do that in BIM 360. It always takes you to the project home in BIM 360 by default. And then the thing that I'm super sad about is BIM 360 supported JSON setup, which controlled your folder structure, your members, your permissions, your publish schedule, and your team colors. You could see a snippet of the old JSON file I used to use, and you could see about the middle where it says schedule publish type is set to weekly every Saturday on the hour 4. And then the email is like, who is pushing the publish? As opposed to like, it just automatically publishes. So it's sad. I used to be able to just create a project and upload a JSON, and it created everything you needed in ACC, but it's not that big a deal. Like just.
And so JSON, just to give a bit of context, it's basically a file to automate the creation of certain aspects when you create a new project, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I was really sad when this went away, but at the same time, like they're always working on ACC, and the development on it has been super crazy. So it's one of those things that if you just wait long enough and you ask nicely, Autodesk will probably give you what you're looking for.
There is a question from John Segler saying, should there be any rush to use ACC instead of BIM 360?
So I get this question a lot, and for firms like us that are trying to displace the new Forma ecosystem with the Autodesk Build ecosystem, now that I truly believe it has one-for-one parity, there's no reason whatsoever to use BIM 360 at all. I had some slides and cut them. Autodesk has a tool that's in private beta that you could just ask your reseller about, and they can get you into it. It's called the Autodesk Replication Tool. And what it will do is it will take everything from a BIM 360 project and push it into an Autodesk Construction Cloud project. The only thing it doesn't do is Workshare cloud models. So if you have a big project you want to migrate to ACC, other than the Workshare cloud models, you can push all that data to ACC to come into the new ecosystem. Obviously, ACC has the reporting functionality, which is way more robust at the admin and executive level than BIM 360. And it's way more open-ended as far as API goes. So it's easier to create your own add-ins and tools that manipulate the ACC data than in BIM 360. And then that's it. That's all I got. Just a hair over time, I know, but I'm Dan Warren. I appreciate your time, and I will stick around for as many questions as y'all want to think up.
All right. Well, there was a comment from Benjamin, who's right there on the camera, and who's going to be teaching the session on Monday, saying that APS, I think that's Autodesk Platform Service, whatever it's called, like that could replace some of the JSON.
Yes, it certainly can. And I've had conversations with developers about what they could help us build to make our life easier. I know that the Autodesk Platform Services is the key, formerly known as Forge, if you knew what Forge was.
Yeah.
It is the key to automation and success, but I just don't have the skill set to get there yet.
Okay, let's see. There are some more questions that I've kept. We have an issue where consulting engineers can only access the Revit Cloud model if they are set up as project admin. When set up as project manager, they cannot access the Revit Cloud models. Any thoughts on this?
So is it project admin versus project
Yeah,
member or okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if the user is a project member, the roles and the permissions of the folder structure define access. And it is about as reliable as the visibility graphics settings in Revit. I have found that if you dig into it, you can almost always find a permission setting that is causing somebody not to be able to access something. They have to have edit level permission as a minimum in order to access the Revit file from Revit in a folder, which I know that wavered a little bit throughout time, but it is now like if they don't have edit functionality, they can't edit the live Revit file for Revit. And it has to be cloud work shared enabled too.
hmm Okay, so that was the first one from Matt Calton. Or the default user assigned to each new project. Is there a way to assign default by role rather than by individual user? For example, if we have 500 projects and we bring in a new employee in a BIM manager role, can we assign them to a role at the organization level and have they populate to all existing projects?
Sadly, no, there's not. There is not a way to do that. At my previous firm, I had an IT guy that was pretty good, and he built up a tool that would go through and add a user to every project in Autodesk Construction Cloud. Brace your inbox because you got absolutely swarmed with invites, but there is no way to like create like a BIM manager role and then assign that to somebody and then have that person added to every project. You have to create some sort of widget to do that.
I see there was a question from Mela. Is there any option to receive notification twice or 3 times a day?
I know it depends on the issue, on like what you're getting a notification on. Um, for issues, you can at people in an issue, and it will send them a notification. So if you just keep going into the issue and keep adding them, it will keep sending them a notification. Now, if their notifications are set to by the hour, then they're only going to get that once an hour with a summary of like, hey, like Dan added you 5 times on this one issue. You might want to go look at that issue. If your settings are set to instantaneous, yes, you certainly can do that. Just add somebody over and over again. That seems like a great way to make enemies where I come from. But other than if a task is overdue. Now, if a task is overdue or to do an issue is past its due date, I think it will notify you once a day that you have an overdue issue. Or it will roll up to your home screen when you log into Autodesk Construction Cloud, and you'll have like a bar that says like past due issues. But there's no way to like just following up kind of email somebody.
Another question from Matt. How do you approach creating Revit files as best practice in ACC? We are looking at an option to pre-link work shared models .rvt to use as templates.
So files placed into file folders in your template will now copy out to the same folder in the new project. That does not work for Workshare cloud models. You can still preset up like your dummy placeholder links in your Revit template. That totally works. Then you just reload from to the Revit file that's in the correct location on the Autodesk Construction Cloud. If you have all of your like work sharing set up in your template, it actually doesn't copy over. I think it actually just copies the raw Revit file, but it doesn't actually create like the work sharing setup that you need or the linking setup. Yeah, shoot is correct.
Okay, what else did I have for you? So do you use the model coordination tools a lot, that Clash Matrix?
We do. We use it heavily. In fact, we are approaching a requirement in our firm where if it is a new construction project, you must go through a 3D model coordination process. And we have an internal team that will manage that for you. Um, Unfortunately, there's just not a lot as far as templates go that you can do to set that up. And for us, it has completely displaced Navisworks. Like I uninstalled Navisworks from my machine. Not that I don't love Navisworks and it has a special place in my heart, but if I never have to open that product again, I'll be happy for the rest of my life. Um, but it's so intuitive and it scales perfectly for the purposes of design coordination. So we use model coordination day in and day out on our projects.
And okay, so what I've heard that it's much better than the default Revit interference check,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
goodness.
about
Oh yeah.
similar to Navisworks in terms of how good it is.
I would say that if I was doing construction coordination again, like I did at the beginning of my career, Navisworks offers you a much higher degree of issue grouping and tracking and management. And you can create shared views and push them to the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Um, but for an architecture and engineering firm, like coordinating for design is way easier than coordinating for construction. So it fits perfectly for us because it's like, okay, you've got a duct, and that duct, I pick that duct and I can see, oh, it's hitting 7 beams. Well, that's all one issue, and it makes that very easy. It's like a step up from glue if you ever worked with glue. It's more automated, it's more user friendly, and all of your setup, we manage it directly from Revit. So like you use Revit to set up your model coordination on Autodesk Construction Cloud.
Do you use any kind of a third-party apps like Revisto or BIMTrack, known as Newforma Connect, or any of these tools, or everything in ACC is sufficient?
We do everything in the ACC. It just suffices for us.
Hmm.
We are also very much more hands-on in the coordination process. Like I said, with if I needed the highly precise degree of tracking that Navisworks affords you, then maybe it'd be a different story. But once we got our coordination process in place, we're like, we don't actually have to go to Navisworks at all. We do everything from the Revit file. And then all the architect has to do is like go click on the clash and they can see, oh, here's all my ceiling clashes. So here's all my light fixture clashes. Like, it makes it super easy for the design team.
I see. So I'm really wondering how you set up the views and the models clash together, because you said all the disciplines are typically working they're all in-house, right?
Well, if you invite me back, I'm happy to show you how that process works.
Yeah,
Because
it's a big one, right?
yeah, it is all managed from the architectural project right now, simply because we don't go into our consultants' models, so we can do everything from the architecture model.
So you would create different views in
Mhm.
the model, publish these views, and clash these different views together.
Yes, sir.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
All right, I think we've went through most of the question. If you guys have
Mhm.
questions, now's the time. Then I'm gonna put this to an end.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, I will say that I always tell people that they should approach the Autodesk Construction Cloud as a project management platform that does way more than just support the live linking of Revit files.
Hmm.
And when you dig into it and you start thinking about, well, how do we currently do things? It definitely can add a lot of value to how you manage your projects and the insight you get into your projects.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I guess, working on the cloud with Revit files, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit, but and it takes some time to get familiar with the setup. Once you do, I agree it's totally worth it to get in these advanced feature where it can be issues and markups and approval, which I didn't know that much
Mm-hmm.
about, and that I was happy to say today. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this question from Matt about content catalog. So, are you using any third-party apps, or are you waiting for that Unify add-in? It's supposed to be coming in soon.
So we used the Unify platform long before Autodesk decided to purchase them. And I've been in part of the content catalog beta. for a while now, and it's coming along nicely. I still think the unified platform itself needed some investment, and I think Autodesk is bridging that gap. What is really cool, I think, about it is that it's all HTML based in its future state. So there isn't like a unified app on your local machine. You do the searching through a web portal, which is much faster and more reliable. However, like, since it's not out, I can't really speak to like features and functionalities of it.
You signed an NDA.
Yeah, but I'm also like, I just don't know what I am and am not allowed to talk about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yes, the content catalog is coming, and I do know that like there is an intent in the future to integrate it with the Autodesk Construction Cloud and basically bring that portal in.
Yeah, I've heard it's getting released quite soon. For anyway, I don't have any precise date, but yeah, it's certainly before the end of the year.
It should definitely be before Q3. Safe harbor.
Yeah. So yeah, some people are asking you to come back for talk about model coordination. Well, we have Ben on next session. We should be talking about it a little bit, isn't it, Ben?
Yep, we'll talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So yeah, just be clear, Ben, right there, he's gonna come on Monday. He's on the MEP side at SEMA. He's gonna talk about advanced collaboration, and we should explore the model coordination module. And Ben, can you say, you just typed your question? Can you say it out loud since you're there?
Yeah, sure. So then how do you manage clashes within the same model, but with also the same categories? So let's say you have a air supply dock systems that goes, but you know there are clashes, but you want to make sure that ACC will get that clash. How do you manage that?
So is it about like categorizing the types of clashes that you identify in the module?
It's more to basically for model coordination to recognize that the same categories can be clashed or the same system can be clashed.
Yeah, so it depends on the project. The more complex projects, what we'll do is we'll create highly specific views from the architectural model that just see like one specific mechanical system. So like just return or just transfers or just, and that allows us to very like precisely clash parts of the model. And because you can bring multiple models, multiple views together into a single model, it makes it pretty easy to like just filter out specific systems or identify specific elements. For example, we do it with, we have one view that sees nothing but ceilings, right? Which is a problem when people decide to use ceilings as their finished floor material, but that's a different story. But that way the architect can just rapidly go in and they can literally look at they could just look at their project like from the north view or from the front view, and they could see, are there any like ceilings that are below, any like mechanical equipment that's below the ceilings. But yeah, we want to get to doing it directly from the MEP and structural models so that when we assign issues, they go to the user and they can access them in Revit and actually work on them in Revit, but we just haven't gotten there quite yet.
All right.
I'm really excited. I can't wait to see your presentation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward for this one.
All right, so I think this is going to be it for today, unless there's a really last minute question. Doesn't seem like it. So thanks a lot, Dan. That was super interesting. I did take note. I did learn a lot, and especially about templates. Yeah, maybe I just have a quick one. If we're to recap what's included in templates, we have the folders, we have the permissions, we have, so what else is included in there? Exactly, the roles.
Folders, permissions, there's any files or folders that you place in your folder structure. So like if you have like process documents, those get copied out. Issues, all your issue templates, all your issue settings, types, categories, statuses, things like that. Your reviews, your model coordination team, your design collaboration teams, not your published settings, and then there's a whole host of things when you get into build and cost. But I think for today's conversation, that covered just about everything.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to be exploring template in the next few weeks. So thanks a lot for that. Let me just